Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Nesler. Hey, today we got a good guest for you. We got Dan Truman. Many of you know him from all of his appearances on Pulp MX, Fantasy. One of the most well-connected guys in the pits. Looking forward to talking to him today. Hey, also, up until June 10th, did you know that you can subscribe to RacerX for as low as 99 cents? That's going to get you 3 issues of just digital only, or you can get 3 issues print and digital for only $2.99. Again, that special is running until June 10th. You can go to racerxonline.com/subscribe to get that offer. Look, a lot of great feedback on the guests. I think we've had some pretty rock solid guests. It's been interesting learning everybody's stories. How did they get to where they are? What have they done to build the brands they've built? We've got some exciting ones coming to you. We've got a few round tables with some of our most popular guests talking about some important things in the industry. I'm going to give you a little teaser on one of them. A lot of folks have no idea how to provide value to sponsors, how to showcase to a potential sponsor the value that you can bring. We're going to do a round table with 3 special guests, as well as myself, about what you can do as an amateur athlete, as a privateer, to showcase the value that you can bring to a brand. So that's something coming up in the future. I'd love your suggestions, though. Who do you want to hear from? What topics would you like to hear? What brands would you love to hear from? You can shoot me an email at questions@motomarketingpodcast.com, or you can simply find me on Instagram at Luke Nesler, LukeNesler. And we'll get them on for you. So without further ado, let's get into the show today with Dan Truman, wildly known individual in the pits, as well as brand manager of GET and Athena.
Welcome to the Moto Marketing Podcast, presented by RacerX, the podcast for moto industry professionals, entrepreneurs, and riders. If you want to grow your brand and business in today's digital-first world, you have to know how to turn a stranger into a fan, turn a like into a customer. You have to know how to turn attention into dollars. This podcast is dedicated to keeping you in the know on real marketing tactics that work in the moto world so that you grow your business and help grow the sport. Get ready to learn from the very same marketing experts trusted by RacerX, Lucas Oil Pro Motocross, GNCC, and NBC Sports. They'll help you navigate the world of digital marketing for your moto brand. This is the Moto Marketing Podcast. Presented by RacerX.
All right, as promised, we've got Dan Truman on the line with us today, and I'm talking to Dan as he is just a couple of days from heading out to Salt Lake City for a month of chaos. So I appreciate him jumping on the call with us today, and Dan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, we don't really know what's ahead of us here in this next month, but it's new for everyone, so we're going to find out, I guess.
So you're going to be out there the entire time, just not leaving, because you obviously have responsibilities throughout the entire remaining rounds that are left to be run. So what's kind of what's the plan and agenda, as much of it that you can make at this point?
Yeah, so obviously I wear a lot of hats, running Athena and GET here in the U.S. I have those obligations, as well as I work with Chad Reed during the Supercross season. So I manage most of Chad's things, from getting an Airbnb to where we're staying to flights and all that stuff. So for those 3 weeks that I'll be there, we're going to fly out there. We're told we're going to get tested, and, it's going to be, wear masks, social distance. It's going to be a different experience for us on our off days. From the track, I'm going to go visit customers like Rocky Mountain and some of my other customers that are in the area. And, it's kind of be a around-the-clock month of work. But, I'm excited to get back to work. This lockdown's been crazy.
Yeah, it has. And you were talking before we hit record that it was weird watching the NASCAR race with no fans. And I just came back from the GNCC race in Georgia this past weekend, and it was definitely a little strange, but at the same time, I think it was probably the most normal thing I've seen in 2 months. People were excited to be back and whatnot. I think the races that fans can attend and things like that are going to be very strange until we can get those back. But I think this is kind of the next step. So hopefully, obviously going into the Nationals, they find a way to be able to bring some capacity of fans in, and then things will start to feel a little bit normal for us. But yeah, I'm curious to see what type of content comes out of guys like you and Mathis and everybody that's going to be allowed to be there, what the response or reaction is to kind of how everything is run. So, man, I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you because for those that don't know, this is the first time Dan and I have spoken. Obviously, and anybody that listens to anything in the moto space has heard Dan and on the Pulp MX Fantasy and other podcasts that Steve does. But I've always kind of had the question to myself, so like, what exactly does Dan do? Because you're the U.S. brand manager of Getting Athena, but then you seem to be the most connected guy in the pits. People are coming to you to help them out with this part or that part. You told me a couple days ago you're helping Dino with something, and it's just you've got so much stuff going on beyond what your title is, which is U.S. brand manager for Getting Athena. So for somebody that maybe hasn't heard of you, if they've been living under a rock, what is it that you do for Getting Athena, and then the other hats that you wear? How would you best explain that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wear a lot of hats. A little background, I grew up racing, was in the industry. I raced a very short professional career and got injured, and then was a mechanic actually at the now Rocky Mountain team with Forrest Butler. I was Jason Thomas and Michael Burns' mechanic throughout some years. And I was lucky to fall into a role at Getting Athena many years ago and started to run the U.S. side of that. That was always my main job. That's my number one job. In relation to that, I'm at the races, so I built a relationship with Chad Reed since he got here basically in 2002. We've been really good friends. In 2018, he went on his own to build his own team. Maybe it was going to be his last year, so I stepped in to help. He asked if I could help do some of that stuff on a lower budget end. And then in 19, he had a podium at Detroit for JGR, and I've always stuck by him on that stuff. And then following into this year, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I do kind of everything. It's not just one job for Chad. I run his VIP program when we had that, but more of a managing side of it. I'm not an agent or none of that. Just kind of someone to lean on for advice and help out with those things. As far as Dean Wilson, when Dean was a rookie, Paul Perry was one of my best friends. Paul was Dean's mechanic, and we built a relationship. Dean stayed with me in Florida, and we've continued that relationship. But yeah, I mean, guys like Hunter and Jet Lawrence yesterday, they're there as well. And I mean, they're new to Florida and they're new to stuff. They're riding at Chad's old place. So yeah, I can give them advice and where to mountain bike. So I'm kind of just connected as far as, people lean to me. I have a lot of information. I never really burned a bridge that I know of in the industry. I was really good about, keeping my word and being honest with people. And I think that goes a long way in a very small sport. So that was something, if I can give anyone advice, it's a small sport. Don't burn bridges because they'll remember it,
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, my role with Chad is do a little bit of everything. My role with Dean is nothing. I don't work for Dean. I'm just his friend and, help him find an Airbnb yesterday, things like that. We're just friends, but that's how I kind of am with almost everybody in the pits. I talk to almost everybody, kind of help out. I go to all the facilities in Florida to help out either amateur kids or pros that use products. So I'm there. I see the guys ride, we're all friends in this sport. So that part of the sport is awesome. That's what I love the most.
It seems like, from what you're saying and just kind of stories that you've told on other shows that you've been on, that I think a lesson that a lot of people that might be trying to figure out ways that they can find their path in this sport, something that you have done and seem to continue to do. I mean, you mentioned it with Dean, like you don't work for Dean, you were just helping him out. And obviously to get in as close as you are with Chad and to become friends with Chad, like there was something that you did to build that type of relationship with Chad and so many others. And I feel like it sounds like you care more about trying to just help and provide value, and then that opens up the opportunities for you. And then the ones that you're interested in pursuing, like the VIP program with Chad and more of an active role with his effort, the last couple of years, you're able to capitalize on those. But you don't just walk into those opportunities. Would you agree with me that you really just try to bring value and it kind of happens from there?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? I mean, I get questions all the time. People, how do I get your job, or how do I do this? And it's like, well, I mean, nobody's just going to walk up to Cooper Webb or Chad Reed and be like, hey, I want to work for you, right? That's not how it works. To get into these guys' inner circle, we're friends, right? We're friends first, and then work comes later. So I would never had a goal to be doing all the things I'm doing, being involved with Pulp MX Fantasy and Steve and Jason and Paul and everybody. But I worked hard, and they seen that, and that's kind of what came of it. I mean, just this morning, Ricky Carmichael reached out to me. We're friends, at the races, and he's like, hey, I know you do a lot of stuff for Chad and sell some things. He's like, I mean, just random stuff. I mean, I sell stuff that's dirt bike related, right? Like, just, he's like, how do I get rid of this? It's just been sitting in my barn, just random things. But I probably know somebody that wants it, right? So he reached out, and it's just it's just how it is. I've always been fair and honest to people, and I think that's the way to go. I was raised that way. I rode for Team Green when I was younger for Craig Martin, and he was a really honest person to me, and I always respected that. So I learned a lot from him, and I look up to guys in our sport like Ryan Holiday and Paul Parabinos, Charles Castle, guys that run businesses. And I mean, I lean on those guys for advice all the time still.
Sure.
It's not like I definitely don't know everything in the sport. I ask these guys for advice all the time. So I think that's, advice for people is just, lean on people and things will fall in your lap. It happens.
Yeah, no doubt. Tell me a little bit about getting Athena and your role there. You're the face of that brand in the U.S., in my opinion. Where did that opportunity come from, and what exactly does your role consist of there? Because I have a feeling it's more than just brand manager, because that seems to be kind of on par for everything else in your life. You wear so many hats. So talk to me a little bit about Athena and GET.
Yeah, so my relationship with Athena goes back into my racing days, and my boss, the president of the company, was in the U.S. and came across me. He was actually a sponsor of me while I was racing, and I got injured in 2004 when I was, gonna go pro and all that stuff, and I kind of just stayed in touch with him, and as Stu, I was a mechanic throughout the years. We always kept in touch, and I wanted to step away from being a mechanic and do something more. I enjoyed being a mechanic for many years, but it just wasn't for me. I didn't want to do it anymore. So he reached out to me and had an opportunity. At the time, Athena was based out of New York, Long Island, New York. And I worked from home in Florida. I didn't really want to relocate. A few years went by, me doing the at-home for Athena, just kind of getting the customer base, dealers and distributors, and getting that information. And then they needed more space. I was in Florida. It kind of made sense. So they bought a building here in Florida. And, I think it's been 7 years now here in Florida. And we have a good little crew here. All the parts shipped from Italy. So everything from Athena and GET is made in Italy and then shipped over here to Florida. And then we have a warehouse here, and we send to, all the big distributors, Parts, Tucker, Western, and, some dealers. Mostly distributors is our main business. But, I do a lot of stuff. What people see at the race side is the fun side of it. I do a lot more behind the scenes, cataloging and things like that aren't the fun stuff. But that's not what people see, but it's what makes money. So
sure.
It's got to be done as well.
So talk to me about the marketing side of it. I mean, obviously, we'll talk a lot just about typical business in this show, but I always like to at least bring up a portion of, what does the marketing strategy look like? Because what I've learned is sometimes it's super in depth. We're talking, well, our paid social strategy is this, and our traditional media buys are this. But then sometimes it's really like hand-to-hand combat, guerrilla, grassroots marketing to where there is no budget. It's an individual like you that their plan for expanding the brand and the awareness of the company is relationship building with key players in the industry and really going that route. What does that look like for you guys?
For us, we've been around the industry a long time in the gasket, cylinder, piston world, right? That's kind of what Athena was known for. The electronic line of Athena is GET. So for many years, first few years, the goal was to get to the U.S. Like, have the product here, have some teams and riders, build the brand. So it wasn't directly to go, let's go pay magazines to do it or do this. We wanted to get some top riders, and one good thing about us is we don't pay to have riders, so that we want them to use the product. So that was one big thing my boss told me. So we got a little lucky by getting James Stewart the L&M days, because we had some really, leading edge products. So that put us on the map with the product of GET. And then we had Chad Reed in his run in 2011. So we had two really big names right off the bat that were using the product. And we went through our bumps and our, ups and downs of the product. With electronics, you're always going to have some bumps with things working and, some issues. There's so many moving parts on a motorcycle. Other things break and, you get blamed for it. So obviously there were some bumps in the road, but we were able to build the brand, and I believe we do have a solid brand now with the OEMs. That was the goal, to get in with the OEMs. So we do stuff for Honda and Suzuki and some of the other brands on an OEM side. And that was the goal. So now that we kind of accomplished, we're in there, now we have another kind of goal. We did TV stuff with Supercross for a little bit. We did some commercials. So we don't really have I kind of handle most of it myself and a gentleman named Ito here in the U.S. We do get a budget from Italy and say, okay, this is your budget, and we decide where it goes. If I wanted to take that entire budget and put it on, say, Pulp MX, we could do that. Do I think that's the best idea? No, but we do spend quite a bit with Pulp MX, and we see a huge return in it. So I think the internet side of it is so much better than what magazines are. As sadly as it is, we do struggle on the magazine stuff because we don't see a return on it. So maybe we do okay with it, but we can't see a return when we give like an internet code and people do it on the online side.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What's kind of the status of some major things on your plate right now? We'll start with GET and Athena with, the shutdown that's happened, and it looks like we're starting to come out of it. Has that drastically changed kind of the company's main objectives and your focuses from where the year began, or where does that kind of look like for you as we all kind of figure out what the heck are we going to do as we come out of this?
Yeah, it was tough for us being Italy-based, and Italy was one of the places that got hit very hard. So
yeah.
They had to shut down for quite a while. We're in a good spot. We have a warehouse here in Florida. We do have some other warehouses around the world, and we were able to fill our orders. And we've had 3 very good months. And if you look at other power sports companies, it seems like they've done pretty well as well. I think people are at home. They're not going to any live shows. They might have extra money. They're fixing up old dirt bikes. They're going riding with their kids. I think at the GNCC there was a huge turnout, from what my understanding, just from people that wanted to be out and riding. So right now, our plan has stayed the same. We're moving forward. Everything has stayed the same. Athena is a great company. We have a lot of employees worldwide, but nobody was laid off, and that was something that
awesome.
They were very proud of. That they kept everybody on board. Nobody lost their jobs, and that was big for the company because it was hard for them to swallow that. In some markets, we did lose money, and that was cool. It makes you feel like you're part of a family when you work for a company like that. So we're still moving forward as we were. The goal is to get some new accounts. So once we can start traveling again, myself and Ito will go out, get some new accounts outside of just the motorcycle world. Athena does so much more than just dirt bike that people don't know about, whether it's lawn and garden or we do stuff for some of our biggest products are things that nobody would ever think of. We built some seals for lawn and garden that everybody has lawnmower in the world, right? Like things like that, and so get some new accounts, things like that. We need to address that side of it. But yeah, we're moving in the same direction we were right now.
It's been, it was scary once, initially when it happened on March 14th. We were or maybe it was March 13th. I run an e-mountain bike team that competes at the GNCCs, and GNCC is a client, so we go to a lot of those races. And I remember we're driving to to Georgia. That was where the last race was before the shutdown, and then coincidentally it was where the next race was after the shutdown. But I remember how scared I was as an owner of a marketing company, and I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? And thankfully, a handful of years ago, we made the transition from anybody that would allow us to work with them to what we were really passionate about, which was cycling and moto. And all of our clients had massive success through this time, and it was awesome to see that our industry did as well as it did. I mean, obviously, the people that took a hit were the dealerships and things like that physically weren't allowed to be open. But it was awesome seeing our clients and their online sales didn't falter, didn't drop, and it gave everybody hope. And I had told my partner, I said, look, if we're able to come out of this within 30, 60, or 90 days, I think we'll be fine. And it seems like that's exactly what has started to happen. About a month after the shutdown is when everything started to reopen, and now we're 2 months in, and Supercross is coming back, and I know the Nationals are finalizing their plans. So, it's great to hear another story.
Loretta Lynn,
exactly.
Stuff.
Yeah,
I think all that stuff coming back is great, and I mean we really do need it. We need it for the power sports industry. Everybody needs to, so many people are out of jobs. I speak that I'm in a good spot, but so many of the people are out of jobs, the contractors, the goggle guys, gear guys, those people that go to the races, and that's their job. And I'm happy that Supercross is coming back. Feld did a good job, I believe, by allowing some of those guys to be a part of it still. And, so there will be some goggle guys and gear guys and things like that, because those guys, they've been out of work for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good to see. I'm glad they're working on stuff for outdoors. I mean, I've heard some different things of how many rounds we'll do, but at the end of the day, I think it is good. We will see some of the sponsor money, I think, drop for the teams on the marketing side. Only because sales went down, right? So if the money's not coming in, you can't spend the money.
Right.
So I think we will see contracts get changed in the next year or so. I mean, Cooper Webb made a post saying he took a pay cut. I know many of the other riders took pay cuts as well. So I think that the sport will change, but I'm hoping that it bounces back and we're okay.
So I want to, as we'll start to tie things up, and I respect your opinion on kind of the state of the industry as far as the sport goes. So I'd like to kind of pick your brain on where do you see Supercross and motocross really this time next year? I mean, do you think there are going to be any major changes to the series? Do you think that we will see teams as big as JGR and as small as, I feel awful for everything Michael Lindsay's gone through the first year he tries to put this team together? What are some changes that you're like, man, I really do think we're going to see this next year as far as teams maybe not being here, changes to the series, anything that's kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I'm a little closer than most with being in Florida and Feld Motorsports being here, or Feld Entertainment and the motorsports side of it. And I have a lot of friends who work there, and it's no secret that they laid off more than 90% of their staff. But they do things like Disney on Ice and Monster Jam. They do a lot more than just Supercross. So the future of Supercross, I don't know. I don't know that they know the future of Supercross. Just since I've been in the sport, it's been sold 3 times, from Pace and Live Nation and Feld. So I don't know enough to be able to say, yeah, it's going to sell again or things like that. But, I mean, there's definitely been whispers of it that possibly Supercross sells to somebody else. If Feld's an entertainment company and they're not selling entertainment right now.
Right.
Do you think they sell out 5 Monster Jams a weekend and Disney on Ice 3 times a night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Jurassic World, all these shows? They're not making any money. And there's
no signs of, as far as that goes, who knows when,
right.
Even if it's half capacity, who knows when that's going to come back.
Exactly. So, I mean, a company like that, it's tough to rebuild, right? Like, they don't really have answers. If they sell 20,000 seats normally and then they're only at 25% capacity, does it even make sense to be able to pay everyone that goes? They had over 2,000 people on staff. So I don't know the future. I think there will be Supercross. I think it will be a little bit different. The smaller teams are going to suffer. The Michael Lindsays, even you go down to teams like Rocky Mountain and JGR, they have factory support, but at some point, teams like KTM from the factory side are going to go, hey, we need to cut some budget, right? And it gets cut from the bottom. So hopefully they get sponsors and everybody can go racing. But with helping Chad and seeing the other side of it, the team side of it, it relies on sponsor money. That's how you go racing.
Yeah.
And I think that if the sponsor money isn't there, then it's going to be a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And motocross, to answer the question on motocross, we've already lost, I think the first 4 to 6 rounds for sure, it sounds like. And so maybe the series is going to be half as long. It's hard to go racing outdoors. Outdoors depends on fans, right? Where
Exactly.
Supercross depends on TV. Supercross makes their money off TV marketing, where motocross makes their money off the real motocross fans.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that. I mean, MX Sports and the Coombs family, we're in the same town and we've worked with them for years. And that's something that people don't really understand, that these promoters, this is their, Redbud, the Ritchie family, that's their life, Unadilla, the Robinson, Jill and her brother. That's their life. So it's hard for them to just go racing without fans. The only rounds that could potentially pull it off are the ones that, Tim and Carrie and Davey are directly responsible for promoting, which would be your High Point, your Ironmans, things like that. Everything else, it's a matter of, okay, does Jill from Unadilla go bankrupt or not? And it's a matter of fans.
It doesn't make sense. It's one
Right.
of those things that just doesn't make sense. And on a Supercross side, okay, yes, they sell a lot of tickets. Yes, they're taking a big loss. But the biggest money income is from TV marketing, commercials, things like that, where motocross doesn't have that side of it. So I don't know. It's going to be really tough. I really hope Loretta's works out.
Yeah.
I've been going to Loretta since I was a kid, and I think it's a great event. I think that it's run great, and I think the families need it. I think that part's really good. And I really hope that some of the motocross series does work out, whether it's 6, 8 rounds, whatever it is, and it kind of puts us back into the feeling of things are going in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure.
That'll I'm glad that Supercross got it done now. People have asked me, well, we were supposed to go in September. Obviously guys like RJ Hampshire went and got his knee fixed because he thought we weren't going back till September. But they had this window. Things are changing daily. We don't know what September's going to bring. And this gives them time to work on next year.
Sure.
So for us as a sport, let's get it done. We'll be done at the end of June, and let's build for next year, whether it's, a shorter series, it's different owners, who knows, but at least it gives them time to work on it. Where if we're trying to finish the series in October and November, we don't have any time. So I think it's way better this way.
Yeah. Last question, and I got to ask, does Chad come back next year for a proper farewell, race a few select rounds, or from what he's made known to you, if you're even able to say, is this it and it's on to the next thing for him? I feel so bad that he was supposed to have the last the farewell tour, and then now even the races that are left, there's not going to be any fans there for him. So has he made any type of dropped a hint of what he's thinking about doing next year?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, he doesn't know.
Sure.
And that's the honest answer. We went into this year saying, okay, let's do it right. Let's do one more year, and let's just kind of say goodbye to everybody. And then he said, yeah, maybe I'll run a select race here or there, a Daytona or something when I, just to race, because he enjoys racing and riding dirt bikes. When this happened, we were told we were going to race in September, so we sold everything. We almost sold the truck. We sold the bikes, and we just did it because we thought we had plenty of time.
Wow.
Because he doesn't race motocross. We sold the bikes and everything, and then we hear we're going racing, and we're like, oh, we don't even have bikes, and we were hearing people saying they weren't ready.
Wow.
If anybody wasn't ready, it was us. We didn't even have motorcycles.
Wow.
Caleb Russell brought us a KTM this week. We've had a KTM, but he brought us our race bike, Chad's race bike, home from the GNCC. So if anybody's not ready, it's us. So
that is crazy.
He just doesn't know. He definitely didn't want his last race to be with no fans. He enjoys the fans. That's why one of the biggest reasons he does it. We ran a VIP program to give back to the fans. But if there's no money there and he's just paying his own money, paying his way and just spending money, it doesn't
make sense. Sure.
So,
well, fingers crossed that something works out then. I think everybody would like to see a proper farewell.
if there was a sponsor and something, and he had some, and had some funding, I would think he would do some races. I think this might be his last full season.
Sure.
Like he's not going to go race 17 rounds next year, but I think that he would like to race a few more rounds in the cities that he didn't get to go to. Some of his favorite cities, Indianapolis on his birthday every year, and he didn't get to do that. He was very excited about that. So I think there's a lot of places he would like to go say goodbye to,
Yeah, absolutely.
He hasn't made a decision. You could ask him the question 100 times. He don't know. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
So
Well, if anybody knew, it would be you.
Yeah, I mean, right now the plan is to go to Salt Lake and be better than he was. He was getting a little bit better. And I think he likes the bike, and I think he'll be a little bit better. You got good guys coming back. You got guys like, AC's back, Brayton's back, Osborne's back. I mean, the class is going to be harder than it was when we left.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I think he'll be good.
Well, I think you, myself, and everybody else were excited that racing is returning, and man, I'm glad that we were able to get you on before the madness started. Thankfully, we've got a few episodes stockpiled because I have a feeling I'm not going to have much luck getting some of the folks on that I wanted to for the next month. So I'm appreciative we got you in just before you took off for Salt Lake, and wish you the best of luck up there, and look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and thanks. And hopefully the Supercross thing goes good, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Moto Marketing Podcast. If your goal is to get real, measurable results from your marketing that will grow your company revenue, then check out how Impakt Media can get the same results that they have for Moto's most iconic brands by visiting thinkimpact.com. That's THINKIMPAKT.com. Have a marketing question that you want answered on the show? Send your questions to questions@motomarketingpodcast.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast.